Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you always for taking the time to tune in. It means a lot to me. Today I was feeling reflective and I have been meaning to continue my video series discussing gay issues, gay problems, things that affect gay men. As you know, I am a gay man. It is who I am. I am out. I own my truth. And I've been in the gay world. It's funny that we even say gay world. I've been in the gay world since I was about 19. And during that time, I've had a lot of experience understanding even the construct of even saying a word like gay world. You know, what the fuck does that even mean? Well, what it really means, if you're not listening, if you're new to my channel or if you're new to this type of conversation, it means that there is a world that exists underneath another world. If you're listening to my videos, you know I like to unpack a lot of stuff. A lot of it is psychology based. A lot of it is occult based, I guess you could say. But it's truth, and it's me sharing my experiences with you and sharing my knowledge with you for free. I have a lot of people that message me from time to time, and if you're out there now, I do apologize if I don't always get back to you. That is simply because sometimes I'm operating at a capacity where I can't be available for everyone all the time. And that's not to say that I don't care. It's not to say that I didn't get your message. For those of you that are sending through the Q&A questions, I am still going to be continuing with my Q&A. It just won't be until I have those 30 questions that I feel are really like questions that are really worth unpacking. You know, let's just put it that way. So I will be continuing that in the next couple of weeks. As promised, I will be on camera doing that, but we just haven't got there yet. We're not there yet with the questions. So please, if you feel so inclined, even after listening to today's podcast, you have a question for me, the only way to get it through to me is via DM on Instagram. I've also recently changed my handle on Instagram to _artist. And I do not get emails. I'm not sitting on the emails. So just letting you know, if the email comes through, I'm not going to be seeing that email. Okay. So that being said, first things first, welcome. And thank you so much again for tuning in. It really means a lot to me. I have seen that people have been more receptive to the last few videos that I've done. I did a video talking about attachment styles and the avoidant attacher. I've done videos talking about coming out. I've done videos talking about dealing with a narcissist. I've done videos that are kind of more chill, kind of more occult-like or astrology-based, where I look at planetary correlations and I talk about astrology and chart placements and things like that. But I am, as promised this year, I said from the start that I was going to move in a direction and talk about things that really affect me and things that affect, that are in my scope. Sometimes I'm really talkative and I love a chat, and other times I just don't feel like talking. So one thing, and hey, that's fair enough. If I don't feel called to something, then I don't invest energy or time into that particular thing. So it's okay. And neither should you, unless you're getting paid. You know, I don't think, if you don't feel called and you're not in the zone and you don't have the energy or the time for something, well, then it's probably left on the shelf for later and come back to it when you're ready. Talking about gay issues is something that I will be moving more into this year as well. But for now, I'm just going to keep this one. It's kind of going to go where it's going to go. You know, I don't have any notes. This is all off the top of my head. And everything that I say, I can back up. everything that I say. I can tell you because I have been around a long, long, long time. I'm 38 human years, but a lot of the time I feel like I'm probably in my late 80s, okay, or even early hundreds. And I'm not saying that in a flippant way. Once you've been around long enough, you kind of see that I don't know if it was Socrates who said, there's nothing new under the sun. And I think that's there's some truth in that, actually. When you start to what we call wake up, you know, obviously waking up is hell, because you'll see that everything is fucked that humans create, because humans are flawed, and there's got to try and find the beauty in being flawed. And that leads me to this topic as well, beauty in flawedness. Is that, you know, you see the same kind of things on a loop. You see the same stories on a loop. You see the same histories repeating themselves on a loop, but in a different form. And I never took any creative writing courses, but if you've ever been to a creative writing course, or you've done creative writing, or you've studied literature, then you would actually know that in terms of stories, there's not that many stories that are not based off, I think, about 4 different story arcs, which is really quite interesting when you think of all of the stories in creation. You think about all of the literature out there, or you think about even music. You know, if you're a musician, then you would know that in the musical world, the base of music is actually not that much in terms of like octave range and musical, you know, whatever the word they want to use for it, whatever it is. But what I'm saying is you'll see the same stuff on a loop. So that being said, there is nothing more spiritually filthy than the gay world. Nothing. The next thing that would be closest to spiritual filth on that level would be the lower astral realms, which would be demons. The lower astral realm is primal, it's tribal. Well, not even tribal, it's just like a bunch of pigs, a bunch of animals. There's no presence of heart. There's no presence of soul. You'll see a lot of people going to Pride March. You know, leads me onto the topic of why I'm saying this. There's so many corridors I could go down, and there's so much I know, but I have to kind of keep it tight and stay on some level of explanation to get all of this out in some kind of podcast form that's digestible to another person. So I could go on and on and on. There's so many factors I could go into play. So when I talk about this stuff, I have to summarize for time purposes. YouTube told me that in terms of the algorithm, the average watch time of my videos is no more than 12 to 13 minutes. And it's said now that the average human attention span is no more than 32 seconds, from 15 to 32 seconds now, because of social media. So yeah, first of all, if people aren't really up for real chat, they're not really going to be sticking around for my videos anyway. So that's fine. The other day here in Melbourne, I was asked, why are you not going to Pride? Why are you not going to Pride March? And it's really just as straightforward as this. I don't fit in to Pride March. I don't care. And coming from an occult point of view, coming from a higher spiritual point of view, you'll see like a lot of people kind of barking like dogs. You'll see a lot of performative behavior. You'll see a lot of perversion. You'll see a lot of kind of deplorables. And it really is a shame that that's what's usually marketed to the public. If we know that out gay people are like 5 or 4% of the population, then straight people aren't going to be part of that community. They're not going to be a part of that world. They're not going to be privy to it. All they're going to see from the outside world, from the outside projection, is what's put on the news or how it's commodified or commercialized into a product. For example, like RuPaul's Drag Race or something like that. And there's so many factors I could go into. And like I said, I will unpack these further. So if you're wanting me to go into this further, I will in other podcasts. But you have to be specific about what you're asking me, because you've got to understand there's just so much like data and information sitting here with me that I could share with you. But the simple answer is pride comes before the fall. Okay? Being gay is not a personality. That should not be the total of who you are. Your sexuality should not define you as a human. Okay? You have a soul. You have a mind. You have a heart. You have a brain. When we debase ourselves in terms of how we treat each other, we really just kind of break ourselves down on a soul level. We degenerate each other and ourselves by objectification. And that's really fundamentally what the gay world is. It is basically just trauma bonding on steroids. Now, if you don't know what trauma bonding is, it's when you've been traumatized and then you traumatize someone else, and then through their trauma and your trauma, you get a connection. But it's not wholesome. And there is no love to be found here. Okay, there is no love to be found. Where is the love in this community? First of all, it's not a community. I think the gay world has been completely hijacked by a very pernicious and sinister agenda. A lot of woke culture is now, and the trans movement has completely hijacked gay culture. And a lot of these so-called leaders that are in these communities, they are not leaders. A lot of them are sadists, degenerates, pedophiles, and psychopaths. Straight up, okay? The way that gays treat each other is absolutely beyond belief. It is heartbreaking. And if you've ever gone onto any of these apps, by the way, if you're a gay man and you're listening to this podcast, obviously you know what I'm talking about. If you don't go out to a gay bar, and since COVID's happened, a lot of these things that gay men would do together, whether it was like rowing teams and things like that, they've all kind of gone now. And so a lot of it's gone into the ether of the internet. So if you want to connect with someone, then you're going to be on one of these apps. And the apps capitalize off you being on there, and they capitalize off your distance and your location based on like geographic location. So you've got to pay money to be seen by other people. I could go on with that. That's another thing I could say to you, but we've just had this breaking down of the gay world, of gay men, of gay culture. And at this point, it's really gotten to a level where it's just off the charts. And I see it all the time. And the moment that you upload one of these apps, it's like instant depression, immediate anxiety. Gays are pushed by the pharmaceutical companies, obviously Big Daddy Pharma. A lot of them are there just to be used as guinea pigs for trial medications. You'll see a lot of it, it's kind of gone that way, where it's commercialized and it's actually kind of fetishized now. I did mention this in a previous video. If you'd like to go back to either part 1 or part 2 of the video that I did previously, where I was talking about gay culture, the one-way ticket to nowhere. And I'm expanding on that as well, is that a lot of gay men operate on a very, very parasitic level. There's a lot of parasites there. There's a lot of sexual perversion there. A lot of people, mostly all of them, if not most of them, are looking for the next best thing, the next quick hit. You'll see that, and it is far more pernicious than it is with like heterosexual people. And in their defense, if you're listening to this and you've probably got depression, you're probably single, you're probably in some kind of strange situationship where no one wants to define what the relationship is, so your boyfriend can go fuck other people behind your back. You'll see a complete abandonment of virtue. And it's said, and I know that virtue, like without virtue, you can't really have love. You can't really have love unless you have some level of truth. And so that brings me to the title of this topic, which is The Lost Boys. And when I log onto these apps, not just because I'm spiritually intrinsic that way, it's got nothing to do with my ability, extrasensory is what I can see and feel. And also having the courage to actually make a podcast talking about this publicly as well, because a lot of people won't ever want to even verbalize it this way because it's way too confronting to even talk about, because there's nowhere else for them to go outside of this. The dysfunction, gay culture is normalized dysfunction on a loop that does not end. It's like you're on a treadmill and then you kind of grow old and then you die. As you know, being a gay man is generally a genetic dead end. A lot of gay men don't have families biologically. We also see the pharmaceuticals, and also a lot of companies have come out now where they're trying to sell babies from third world countries to gay men in first world countries. So we see exploitation, we see eugenics issues coming up as well. But for the most part, if you're listening to this, I'm not scolding you, because everything I'm saying is true, and it can't hurt you if it's not true, okay? Because I'm in it too. We're in the pig trough. It's like a pig trough, bunch of pigs. It's pig world. What I'm saying is it's not your fault entirely that you're here in this pig trough, okay? It's not. You were indoctrinated into it, just like I was. I was a young man. I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to feel love. I knew I was different. I came to the city from the country to try and find some sense of connection to people that were like me. And what I got was what most of you get: drug addictions, mental health problems, grooming, rape, issues with consent, mentally unstable people. Like, it goes on and on and on. And in their defense, I have to say this as well. A lot of parents and a lot of people out there that are also in the mental health field, they're not going to know how to help you. If you're a gay man listening to this, they are not going to be able to help you because they can't relate to you. They're not living in your world. They're not on the apps. They don't see how bad it is. And I'm painting this lightly and telling you how fucking bad it actually is. You know that it's terrible. And it's all normalized. You know, even when I log off these apps and I come back because you starve for connection, you know, in Maslow's needs pyramid, we know that humans need connection. Most of the time, I'm starving for intellectual connection. I'm starving for real affection. And the reason that I am starving for this is because these days, a lot of gay men or people in this community don't actually know how to relate to another person. They don't have the interdependent and relatability skills to be able to build a real relationship. Even a friendship in the gay world is almost next to impossible. Why? Well, it goes without saying. Most of the relationships always start off sexual-based first. Okay, so we're not connecting in the heart and the mind. And so because of that, we're not getting that deep connection. But you'll see everyone's wanting to have sex to try and compensate for overcompensation, for lack of real meaningful connection. That's why it's just full of sex addicts. And everyone's fucking each other and using each other and spitting each other out and discarding each other. There is no love here. This is not the mothership. This is not the promised land. Okay? If you're in it now and you can see what I'm saying, you have been conditioned. I know it sounds hard, but you've been programmed. You have been programmed to walk straight off the edge of a cliff. And even when you log on, you'll still see the same people that were there 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They're still hanging around. You've got 60-year-olds trying to get young guys to suck their... it's just unbelievable how perverted it's become. And psychopathy is just running rampant. The attitudes of how modern day culture has affected attitude in the sense of people, just the way that they relate to each other. It's unbelievable. It is just a toxic shit soup. And a lot of the time I wake up and it's almost that bad. It's being an empath, being someone that can really see this, and I have the mental bandwidth to understand this and try and trace the cords back to the walls. A lot of people won't understand what I'm saying. This all will just go straight over the top of your head. And that's okay. This wasn't meant for you to understand. But for the very few that can understand what I'm saying here, I mean, I'm in the thick of it with you too. And I've gone so far to talk about, and I have to be careful because this is where videos get taken down now, but there is a very, very dark side to gay culture and to homosexuality that is directly connected to the lower astral world. Okay? And I have to be careful. I probably can't go too far into that, but think about the obvious parts of it. I mean, cognitive dissonance. Do you know what that is? So that's basically, I'll give you an example. I'm going to have to talk cryptically here a little bit because I've got to keep this super PG. Say, for example, you see a table. It is a table. It has 4 legs with a flat top. It's like a table. Okay, it's a table. But if I tell you that it's a chair, and then everyone else thinks that it's a chair because we all are conditioned to believe that it's a chair, and no one wants to actually state the obvious that the table is not a chair, if everyone believes that it is a chair, then it is a chair. So what we've done, we've changed the law of identity of something to match an agenda that we want it to be. But we all know deep down inside of us, in some insane level of bandwidth in the brain, you'd know that it's not a chair, it's a table. So what I'm saying is, goes without saying, is we can't make a body part something that it is not designed for. It goes without saying. There is a lot of abuse and mutilation that goes on in the gay world. Mutilation of the body, for obvious reasons. Mutilation of the mind and the heart. And the longer that you're stuck in this loop, the more detrimental it is to you. I've had some very, very big wake-up calls in my life where I've had to understand and come out of that cognitive dissonance. I've also mentioned that a lot of gay men can't live outside of that kind of feedback loop because they need the behavior to be mirrored back to them of how they're all behaving. You don't see a lot of gay men living out in the country. Well, because there's nothing to mirror back the feedback loop of that, if you know what I mean. I'm talking cryptically here as well. But what I'm getting to the point of it is that if we give up responsibility for our health and we just don't care about how we treat each other, and we can't take any responsibility for our own behavior and ourselves and our own health, then we're just sitting ducks. And that's really where it's gone now. And we're sitting ducks to an agenda that's come through, which is really has got nothing to do with what gays are in terms of the trans movement. Nothing. Gay is about accepting yourself, that you're same-sex attracted. We now see a play on words where even on Scruff and some of these apps, you'll see that they've actually removed the word gay. So it's almost like being gay is now not cool enough. It's not fetishized enough. It's not transformed enough yet. So we see that it's kind of become obsolete and it's been deleted. So now we've got words like queer that is replacing the word gay. So when we start blurring lines, we know that that's when things get out of hand, and that's when people get hurt. That's when we have a darker agenda coming in under the guise of love and diversity and inclusion, but it's actually not. It is a trap. Okay, we know that when we blur lines, things get out of hand. We can't define anything, and we can't define anything. Someone doesn't have to take any responsibility for how they're treating another person or what they're doing. So a lot of these gay men, they don't have the free thinking, I would say. I'm not going to say IQ because that's not fair. I would say they've come in wanting to fit in and under this guise of being a part of something that really couldn't care less about them. You know, a lot of gay men during COVID all died alone. I know quite a few of them. A lot of them have very bad immune systems from all of the behavior, the drugs and the party culture. Obviously, HIV plays a massive part of it. A lot of them were found all face dead alone. Over the past 4 years, a lot of them passed away because they were sitting ducks. They didn't have a support system. We don't see real support systems in place for these men. They just slip between the cracks. And of course, when you get older and you don't have a family to come visit you in the nursing home, and you don't have like that deep connection, no one ever talks about what happens to gay men when they get older. No one, because it's not sexy to talk about an old gay man. This is very real stuff that's just completely avoided because everyone's so interested in the physical and looking pretty and being young and living this lifestyle that really yields nothing. Because a lot of gay, and you'll see that a lot of gay men, like being on Grindr, it's not just a social, like it's kind of like a demographic of poverty in a way. When no one really chases anything in their life other than hedonism and looking aesthetically pretty, they don't yield anything of value because there's no work. There's no long-term dedication. There's no due diligence. And so you'll see a lot of them really yield nothing in their lives. This is also not all their fault as well. That's why I want to give a lot of these men big hugs from my heart, because this kills me, because I see it every day. And I'm not talking about other communities. I'm talking about this community. And I wouldn't really even call it a community at this point either anyway, because no one can really define what it is. Where are the leaders of the community? Who are they? Who decides what's going on? If I went to Pride over the weekend and I had a microphone and I walked around and I was kind of like in an interview state and went up to random people and said, "Excuse me, could I just have you for a second? Could you please tell me what you're doing here? Like, what is all this about? What does this mean for you? Like, what is this?" You would get 100 different answers that would all contradict each other. So if there's no consensus on what it even is, what is it? Other than overcompensation for lack. I know this is hard to hear, and I know this could be very troubling for people if you're getting where I'm going with this. And it's not all their fault. It's very hard for gay men to build a following if they're not thirst trapping. I challenge right now, I put it out there, if how to build a following without your dick and your ass hanging out. How often do we see this? Yeah? So I know this is quite difficult to understand, but it really comes from a place of truth, and it's coming from a place of love here. We've got a lot of predators, more than now than ever before, on all of the apps. Straight men, bisexual men, closeted men are just using gay men for sex, exploiting them. Gay men are lower in society than they are. And of course, that's why they're hiding their face, because they're ashamed of the parts of themselves that the gay man is. That's why they're hiding, because they're cowards. Okay? And a lot of these gay men, they're just so starved for any level of connection, they go for it. But after it's done and you've been used, they just go on and use someone else. It's the destruction of the mind by just treating everyone like an object, like a dildo or a blow-up doll. And so many of us have fallen for this. I cannot believe the Kool-Aid that I was drinking. In my 20s, I was like right into this. I used to go to Pride. I've been to a couple, but I knew in my heart when I was around a lot of these men, they're lost. I don't see them as men. I don't see the rites of passage that has taken place for a lot of these gay boys to become men. I just see lost, confused souls. And when I upload these apps and I see the faces and I look into their eyes and their pictures, the ones that do show their pictures, by the way, there's more faceless profiles on Grindr and Scruff and all of these apps than ever before, which makes no sense to me, because here we are in 2024 and it's all about accepting yourself and owning your truth and owning what belongs to you, and it's okay to be you. But yet we've got more faceless profiles on there hiding than ever before. And you've got to ask, like, why is that? Is there something wrong with me because I have my face on there, but you want to hide? And then you get the excuse train. Oh, it's my work colleagues will see. Are you really that concerned with what your work colleagues think of you? No, there are no excuses. If you want someone to love you and see you, you have to show them who you are for them to even see you. There is nothing crueler than a coward. Because if you're in a phony relationship and you're wasting someone else's time, that's time from someone's life that woman or that your wife, she can't get that back. This is very serious stuff, and a lot of people like to trivialize it, like it's all just a bit of fun. Well, it's actually not. It's actually someone else's life. And reducing someone to a toy in some kind of S&M fetish dynamic, it has real effects, it has real consequences. We just don't want to talk about what that is because it's too painful to look at. On the topic here of the lost boys, we also see a play on the word lost boys, which I automatically always think of Peter Pan, the story of Pan, the boy who just wouldn't grow up. And we see in gay culture with a lot of gay men, there's a lot of like arrested development going on there. They're very adolescent in the way that they behave. Everything is miniaturized, fetishized, commercialized. Everything's fabulous. Everything's got to look pretty. Hollywood, Disneyland stuff, Anaheim, West Hollywood. But it's not real. It's an illusion. It's fantasy. Tinkerbell isn't real. And it goes without saying, it's very, very difficult to prolong something and sustain something that isn't real. The gay world and gay culture is not real. It is aesthetic based. Everyone's behaving like an animal or a pig. And that's also a reference to Pinocchio, which you'll see here in the title that I made. It's boys that don't want to participate on a high level of society and take accountability for their own life. And so they go to Pleasure Island. They're lured to Pleasure Island. This is the Pinocchio story. It's a perfect analogy. And they all turn into donkeys, into jackasses, crying for their mama, crying when it's too late and they realize. And that's why it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And I've been able to get out of it now, and I've had to completely detach myself from a lot of these gay men because it's very difficult. Could you imagine going up to an older gay man and telling him that your whole life is bullshit and I'm only showing you the mirror, and if you don't like the mirror, don't blame it on the reflection. You've got no friends, you've got terrible health, you've got no support systems, you're single, you're alone, everyone just wants to use you, you've got nothing that is deep, you wouldn't get deep, you wouldn't get real, you wouldn't take accountability, and now you just grow old and run out of time. If you're not already dead early from HIV or from all of the strains of STIs that break down your biological composition, which is exactly what they do. Because when you look at a lot of these older gay men, you'll see in their face, they have aged terribly. Terrible. It catches up with you. That's the thing about life, is that our behavior and how we treat each other and the characters that we build, the character that we build has a consequence. There is a time where you have to pay the piper. And for many of you, or most of the gay men that are out there that have fallen into this trap, thousands have come before you, just like you. I'm not even mentioning the HIV epidemic of what it used to be. Have you forgotten what has happened here? And these days, it's so hard to know who to trust. I mean, I don't even really trust doctors anymore. I don't trust medical advice anymore because a lot of them are corrupt as well. There's a lot of kickbacks for doctors to push drugs onto gay men so they can be like little guinea pigs. You don't know what's in that substance. You don't know what it's going to do. That's a very big gamble to take with your health. We don't know the long-term effects of certain drugs, like PrEP, because they haven't been out long enough for us to know. So we're just kind of at the mercy of this pharmaceutical daddy pharma. And if you've spoken and you've sat down with a lot of these elders that are gay and have come to these realizations, like I have, a lot of them have been able to share a lot of this information with me because they have had lived in experience. They were there before it fell apart for them. And we were able to scrutinize and go over all of this. A lot of this stuff is self-explanatory, and at the end of the day, I mean, it's really difficult to even say that, it's so overtly obvious. I'm standing at the top of the bell tower going, look out, you're in trouble. You are in trouble. That's why I'm trying to talk directly to the people that would need to hear this. Yeah. This is horrible stuff to talk about, and I know it's hard, and I'm trying to have as much discernment as possible around this, but yeah, in terms of mental health, I just see it deteriorating massively, and I see a lot of illusions and traps that are just set up everywhere. So just heed my advice and get out before it's too late, or at least try and see it for what it really is. okay? Because it's not what you think it is. This is not the mothership. Yeah. Also, we'll also see, I'm going to mention this as well, in the gay community, you'll see most of them are bottoms. The ratio these days, I would say probably maybe 100 bottoms to 1 top now. Directly connected to trauma bonding, which is something that I'm going to have to talk about in another video. I think I'll probably unpack that for another time. There's just so much I could say, but for the purpose of this video, we're at 39 minutes now, so I think I'll leave it here. I've put a lot into this. I know I've covered a lot of ground. For some of you, it's, for the mature ones that are actually able to understand this, that this is truth. Generally, when people hear this level of truth, they go, that's homophobic. No, it's not. This is someone talking about the problems that are in our community directly head on. All right? Because I'm in there too. I'm absolutely in there as well. I want to build real relationships with people that are authentic. I don't want people around me that can't own their truth. All they're going to do is pull you back into an underground lifestyle, use you and discard you, fuck you up and go on to the next one. That's why I have so much respect for gay men that come out and own their truth. I really, really do. Because I know how hard it is out there. I understand. I understand. It's not easy. But we have to look at the framework, and we have to look at this and understand that if we don't talk about these things, it's going to be more painful. I know it's painful to talk about them, but if we don't talk about them, it's going to be more painful. I'm just bringing up a couple of issues here. That's it, just a few. I know it's been a lot, but I'm just being honest with you. The lost boys, there's no rites of passage, there's no responsibility. And I guess in a sense that having a family brings that level of responsibility to you. It's said that a lot of people, once they become a parent, and they've got that little baby that's completely dependent on them, they have to get their shit together. Okay? You'll also see consent is a massive thing in the gay world, as drug problems, sniffing amyl nitrate, inhalants, crystal methamphetamine, all of these drugs are a massive part of gay culture. They're all out of it. You wouldn't be having sex with these people if you were sober. So are you saying it from a sober point of view, or are you saying yes to these people from a drug point of view? Yeah, there's so many issues that are just completely ignored, and it's so obvious how we affect each other psychologically. The impact of what we do to each other, it's just terrible. So if you're out there and this was your first kind of video hearing any of this, just know that there is an underground world that's going on. It has always been there, and it is still underground to this day. It is dysfunctional, it is dangerous, and yeah, it is quite scary. So I'm only speaking on behalf of everything that I've said here. We've got a real breaking down of this now and an overriding of gay culture with this whole kind of trans culture and changing words. Yeah, it's an absolute shit show. And I make these videos because I just hope that someone out there can hear me and understand what I'm saying, and you're not alone out there if you see this as well. It's okay to talk about it, all right? You're there. I'm here, and I know that you're out there. I know that you're out there. It's some days when I make these podcasts, it's like putting a radio signal out in a time of an apocalypse, saying, is there anyone out there? Over. Can anyone hear me? Over. It's like that. And we've got all these people that are all there at Pride or all there on the apps, on the internet. They're all talking, but they're not connecting. The epidemic of loneliness, fragmentation is happening more and more as humans move more into technology. All right, I'm going to leave it here. If you feel so inclined and would like to leave some comments below, it would be wonderful. Have the courage to talk about this stuff if you feel so that way inclined. Otherwise, I do get a lot of DMs from a lot of young gay men out there, a lot of people out there. It doesn't matter whether you've found me from my artwork or from my books or whatever, tarot card, whatever you found me from. There is a reason that you found me. There is a reason that you're listening to this. Okay, and I'll leave on the last note as well. The depth of growth that we have in this life is completely dependent on how truthful we are with ourselves. All right, I'm going to leave it here on that note. Be true. Don't be afraid to tell the truth, no matter how painful it is. The best thing one can do is tell the truth, no matter what the outcome is, because truth is love. Truth is light. Darkness is a lie. We need both, and both exist. But when you tell the truth, you can live a life that is authentic with other people. And when we're willing to look at the truth, then we can actually do something about it. But we can't do anything about anything until we start looking at the truth. All right, lots of love, and I will see you in the next video. Please send any questions through via DM on Instagram, or if you'd like to, you can also leave them in the comments below. They're always going to be anonymous, and I really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for everything. I'm very, very humbled. Lots of love and blessings to you. Okay, bye.